Have you ever wondered how your sales performance compares against your competitors and peers? The B2B Sales Benchmark Report provides the definitive guide to what success looks like in 2021. See how you compare in terms of win rate, sales cycle, average deal value, relationships, and engagement. You can see the results and get the full report at ebster.com/B2B-sales-benchmarks. This is Sales Ops Demystified, the #1 most downloaded podcast in sales operations. We invite the brightest minds in sales operations onto the show to deconstruct the why, what, and how behind rep productivity, forecasting, metrics, and all things revenue. This podcast is brought to you by Ebster, the leading customer engagement platform for Salesforce. Hello and welcome to the fourth Sales Ops Demystified episode. As you can see, we're here in a WeWork in a bank station in London. And you can see, is that the Bank of England?
Royal Exchange.
The Royal Exchange. Directly behind us. Alex, can you just move a tiny bit? You see that there? Sweet. So
that's not the Royal Exchange.
That's not the Royal Exchange.
The Royal Exchange is below that. A little bit older. There you go.
There we go. And so, first of all, thank you for joining. This is our third interview episode, and we think they're getting better every time. I'm not going to say better quality of guest, but we're getting really good guests. And quite interestingly, the guest we have today, Alex, knows the first guest we had, Justin. And Justin and Alex are both awesome people in the commercial sales ops space, but have come into sales ops in a slightly different route. And we're going to be talking about it today. So that's going to be super interesting. Hopefully Justin is watching and he'll be dropping comments and questions. So we're going to run, as always, for around 30 to 40 minutes. There are slides you can probably see. They're quite small in the corner. There's a few bullet points on those, and we'll be elaborating on them. If you have any questions throughout the whole time, ping them in the chat. We've got Josh over here. Josh, quickly run around. We'll give people from the face. They have to come here. Josh is here. He'll answer questions. He'll send questions through to me. And so we'll hopefully get them all answered during the session as well. So with that, I want to welcome Henry. Thank you for coming back on.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So I also want to officially welcome Alex. And so the first thing that we will be chatting about, or the first thing I want to cover, just to give context, is kind of an introduction to Alex and his route into sales ops. So the slides we're going to have. So that's the first point. So if you
do you want me to introduce myself?
Yeah.
Are you going to pick me up?
I think
I should introduce myself.
Yeah.
So I currently work at a company called Roxhill Media, and we are a relatively young media database company. So we provide information to the PR community, whether they're working within a company or whether they're working with PR agencies. And it's effectively a database of journalists, but we've led on all sorts of functionality that drives accuracy for the facilitation of their conversations with their target audience. The founder is a guy called Alex Northwood, and he used to be a PR for Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan for a number of years. Realized there was this massive opportunity to take what was effectively, I think, in those days, floppy disks or even paper, digital, and set up a company called Bullhorn, which very quickly became the sort of preeminent media database. He ran it for 7 years, sold it in 2010, sold it very successfully. His business was then subsumed by larger companies. And in 2014-15, he set up Roxhill Media, and we now compete aggressively with Bullhorn, and are gloriously taking between 1 and 2 companies away from them a day. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So
we're very keen to compete.
And you're also the co-founder of the Sales Ops Meetup in London
I am, yes.
with Kirsty Charlton. So
Kirsty
I didn't know you were a co-founder. I thought it was with Kirsty.
No, you know. How so Kirsty and I, so Kirsty, as I guess some of your audience may know, is head of sales operation for Signal Media. Signal Media provide a media monitoring service. So they are sort of the other side of the coin to our business, and we are sister companies effectively.
And Kirsty's going to be on in 2 weeks, we think, or maybe next week.
That is certainly something that people should dial in for.
Okay.
She's excellent.
Great.
She's an absolute rock star when it comes to sales operations.
So why did you start that group?
So we had met at an event that Roxhill Media were putting on for PRs, and she was new to Signal Media when we started talking about the sales operation role. And I'm slightly sort of hybrid. I'm not pure sales ops, I should admit. I do various different things for Roxhill Media, and she and I got talking, and quite quickly started sort of sharing ideas and thoughts, and we met up sort of once a month. And in one meeting, we both sort of came to the conclusion we should set up a sales ops meeting on Meetup. It's gone from strength to strength.
I totally agree. I was there a couple of weeks ago. It's really, really good. And there's going to be one next week, so we should pick that up.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm conscious that we focus on the business that you're going we focus on you, Alex. So please, everyone watching is probably like, okay, Alex seems like a nice guy. He works with business.
I can show my meat side if you want. I'm a nice guy. So my background is sales.
And in 20, I think I put in the bio like 20 years.
Yeah. Over, I mean, not again.
Don't give away your
I mean, jeez. So I've been in sales. I was in sales for a long time. And I started off in the publishing industry as working for a publishing house, and then sort of went freelance and worked for lots of different publishing houses. Quite quickly realised that publishing wasn't going to pay for a mortgage and children. So sadly moved out of publishing, but moved into a company that I loved. I was at that company for 15 years. And they were selling, absolutely. So long time. But I sort of started off as a junior salesperson, sort of small accounts and doing things for the big dogs, and then gained my own territories and accounts, and then transitioned from sales after about 10 years into more of a strategic role. And so I guess at that point I was still very involved in sales, but more in sales operations. Or more sales strategy, and looking at how to break into different markets with different platforms. So we provided a couple of different SaaS platforms for different processes, and it was how do we take those platforms that have a use in the US and create a new market for them in the UK and Europe, and at the same time looking at how we talk to clients.
And do you think it was important that you had a sales background to step into a more strategic role? And step into a sales ops role?
Well, I think given sort of the company that I was working for, I had a lot of experience in in what we did and how we did and who we were talking to. So that enabled me to, I think, identify both, the markets that were potentially saturated for us, but also identify new markets. And I think given my understanding of the platforms, I think it's always useful and interesting to be able to look at the platform you're providing and what other use cases are there for this. But I think it's it was interesting because we were in America. It was an American company, and the US drove a lot of decisions. And so there was a point along the process of saying, honestly, really, this should work. This will work. We tested it X, Y, Z. And I think when you are moving away from your sort of core service or the core functionality of the platform, changing its use case, people get a little edgy. But there was very little risk. There was potentially very high upside. And I think the combination of that sort of low risk, we were moving into a market where if anything did go pear-shaped, it wasn't going to impact the rest of our the rest of our service and customer base.
So just to make it clear about your journey from sales, it was after almost 10 years of selling.
Longer. So I was 10 years at that one company, and we're now talking about 30 plus years of selling.
And then how and why did you make that shift from actually going and doing selling to this other like slightly metal role of strategy and operation?
I think the company that I was working for at the time, I had a fantastic CEO. Effectively, she was she ran the business and all aspects of the business for EMEA and APAC. And she was, I think the word inspirational gets bandied around often and too often. But she was really inspirational. She, gave people, autonomy, and she was very commercial. She was a very sort of introverted leader, but she was fantastically good at sort of ideas and looking to sort of drive the business forward and think about diversification. And so the opportunity was really driven by the opportunity to try to diversify, our market and into different markets. And it seemed a very exciting opportunity. I had always enjoyed the sales aspect, the people aspect of selling. And, there was still the sort of, ambitious, wanting to achieve element that I think, is essential to any salesperson with this role, because, they're not going to do this without putting numbers next to your name. So, I still had numbers against my name, but, it's working with teams and across teams.
I see. Nice. So, and then the next thing I want to touch on, we kind of did it then, was needing sales experience to do sales ops.
Yes.
And we sort of tied into the question after that, which is what you think makes a really good sales ops person.
Yeah, I don't think it's essential. I don't think you need sales experience. I think in any role you want to take, the more experience you have, whether it's of that role or other roles, it adds different dimensions to your ability to, synthesize problems, to understand what's in front of you,
to listen to people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think, I always think that if you're, should I ask this person to do this or that? I always sort of try to put myself in their shoes. What would happen if someone asked me that? I'd be happy to do it. And I think it's the same way in a work environment. If you're able to understand other roles to a much greater degree, I think it's you're able to facilitate your own role better. And I think a lot of times, doing what sales ops does is about, selling to your colleagues to an extent,
Oh,
that's
nice. That's really nice.
No,
that's good. I really like that.
But it's not selling, but it's, it's a sales operations person. You want people to adopt a process, to do things in a particular way, because you've looked at the data and the data says, this isn't working, would another way work? And so, you need to go to your sales team and persuade them. But so I think if you understand what the pressures, the sales force are, I think if you understand the things that they have to do and the ways that they do them, and the characters that often reside within sales teams.
So how do you persuade them to change their processes? How do you do it? Is it carrot or stick?
I'll do it any way I can, quite frankly. I think again, it's back to knowing who your team is. There are some people who will look at email marketing campaigns, and some of this is very much sort of your sphere, but and potentially are experienced salespeople who say, "Good Lord, you're just spamming people," and it's absolutely not true. So how do you get those people on board? And I think if you have done your research, and if you are, and this probably comes onto your question about the things that make a great sales ops person. I think if you really are interrogating the data that's in front of you, you can potentially see, what's not working, what would work. And I think then if you go to that team and say, look, here are the things that we've been doing, this is where we've been doing it. We don't believe that we're generating, enough sales from this. We need to look at this way. And I think it's, most people should listen to that.
So there's like hard, I don't know, maybe harder than the word, but like analytical skills required.
Yeah.
Then also softer, persuasive skills required.
Yeah. Don't know how soft they have to be. But yes, absolutely. I mean, I think, going into the question about what makes a good sales operations person, I think it is, I think you have to like data. I think you have to enjoy the fact that there is a lot of data out there and you can utilize it if you can harness it. I think you have to have a very good attention to detail. I think you have to be hardworking. There's, you spend a lot of time, I think, looking through the data. So I think what you're looking for in the data are anomalies. If something's screwing itself again and again and again, great. You can crack on with that. But if there are anomalies in your data, if there are sort of, why is that number showing up like that again and again, then I think you have to pick up on those things.
So if you're a new sales ops, if you have a new sales ops role in the business, you join this business, it's got 30 salespeople, it's got a sales manager. What are the first things you do? How do you want to go and build those relationships first? Because it's the only way you can have influence in the business.
So I think size matters. And I think, if you have 30 salespeople, it's very different from the environment in which I work, which has 10 salespeople. I think, when you have, and I think the same goes for data sets as well. I think when you have a very large sales team, it's as much about, the tools and the technology and the process. You may not have the time, the geographical, ability to talk to the sales team and persuade them that X, Y, and Z. So I think it comes much more back to, this is the data set we have, this is what we're learning from, and these are best practices. And I do think that, a lot about sales operations, which I sort of feel isn't a it's not in its infancy, but it's not a sort of a super established career, I think. I think there is a huge amount of learning that is done among sales operations people. I think
Hence the webinar.
Hence the sales operations meetup group. And I also think that, Henry, your sales, your marketing, we were just saying that, you guys have a close alignment within Epster. We have a very close alignment within Roxhill. And I think that's essential. And,
This is one of my favourite points right now. And we're going to talk about this, the merging almost of these commercial teams.
Yeah, revenue operations.
Henry, revenue operations demystified this one.
Yeah.
Change to. Should we bring this discussion in now? Because I do want to cover this.
Sure.
And it might have actually been you that I first got this from, or maybe it was, I think it was you, the sales.
Telegraph.
So I might just let you talk about it, but every webinar, almost everyone we bring on now is like actually this role of sales ops also has to encompass potentially the customer success or what happens after the sale, and then also what happens before the sales team and marketing.
Yeah.
So, do you like to add?
It's one pathway, and if you think about a sort of a sales funnel, you're pouring, leads or contacts or opportunities in at the top, and, at the bottom comes client win. But, throughout this process, things are falling out of the funnel. And, marketing is hugely involved, sales is hugely involved, and then, post client win, I think the sort of the old model where you had the sort of funnel ending with client win, we're all in businesses where, recurring revenue is absolutely king. And if you think about investment cycles, what investors look for in companies that they're going to invest in is an opportunity to sort of, increase the revenue dramatically, but also have that base of recurring revenue, annualized revenue. And so your client success team, your customer success team is hugely important as well.
Do you have a high renewal rate?
So we have 81% in the first year and 96 from then on. So we are in the process so we had a sales force who continued to look after clients. We had a group of account directors who managed the renewal process, and we had a team of account managers, and we're changing the account managers' roles into they're going to run the first year renewals, and we're backing that up with a nurture campaign and marketing. To, as soon as they sign on, they start getting emails that are very much value led. Here's the best way to do this. Have you seen this particular trend at X, Y, Z?
The week after they
Yeah, I think month after for the campaign, for the nurture campaign. But when we were looking at the 19% that were moving away, and to be clear, there was a large percentage of that, almost 70% of that group weren't going to a competitor. They were just saying, do you know what, we don't feel we need it. It's not as if we have a high value on our platform, but we had a number of clients who are not rolling in cash, and therefore even the amount that we charge was something that they would have to factor into their budgets. So if we can demonstrate value in that first year, and it appears already this year to be working. So even with that sort of the nurture campaign, the fact that we focused on it, and again, that's a data-driven. A data-driven result. What are we looking at? Why are we looking at that? Who's going where? And that's very much sort of the sales
revenue operation.
But I think we were talking about the sort of the division between marketing and sales, so not Justin Kersey's part of the business, but another part of the business really had some really rigid demarcation lines between the marketing team and the sales team.
In the previous business.
Yeah. And it was just, totally ineffective.
Mm-hmm.
The salespeople were much more inclined to say, I don't want my clients in that campaign. Right. We haven't fed into any of this. And one of the things, so when I joined Roxhill, we didn't have a marketing team at all. It was me. That was never going to get us anywhere. Me and campaign monitor, which, as good as it is, wasn't really up to scratch. So we now have we've got a marketing team of 4, and we work extremely closely. Who report to me? We work really closely with the sales team, and our head of marketing's view on it is that her role should be 60% in support of sales and 40% in support of brand. And those two things are symbiotic anyway. They both help each other, and I think it's hugely important.
So, what kind of technology are you using across marketing and sales?
So we are.
Do you use a CRM?
We do use a CRM. We use a CRM called Capsule, which is a. I really like it, and I think the whole CRM question is one that one could entertainingly talk about for hours. My family roll their eyes when I try to talk about it. It's a very straightforward CRM. It doesn't have a huge amount of bells and whistles, but it does exactly what we need it to do. We have a marketing automation platform. We use HubSpot. We use Xero for accounting. We use Heap to interrogate platform usage. And we try to get them, they do all talk to each other other than HubSpot, which is equivalent, because they're not only the CRM, sales CRM. But I think what's important, and I use Excel. I use it.
Yes, Excel is a frequently used tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I try to automate as much as I can. So obviously the platforms, help us with managing part of our data. But Capsule doesn't provide some of the in-depth analytics that we might want for the management team. And I think one of the questions that sort of always comes to mind about CRMs is, who's it for? I mean, it should be for the sales team. The sales team should be using it to manage their relationships, and, keep their tasks ticking over, all the rest of it. I think, that was the view of a CRM, 5 to 10 years ago. And I think the sort of the pendulum swung to, CS, this is fantastic. I can get all this data out of it. This is wonderful. But you then got a layering on of the sales director saying, actually, before you close this opportunity, one or lot, you've got to check this box, you've got to check that box. And suddenly administration, in a major way became involved. And not necessarily the salesperson's friend.
But if you're giving a report to senior directors of financial reporting, opportunity reporting, are you giving it to them in Excel? Is you processing data heavily?
So I do both. I will use our platforms to provide one set of information, but I will also layer in, I guess, more sort of qualitative information. And I think, another one of the questions around forecasting is, how do you manage that? Is it entirely quantitative? Are you just looking at the data? Or are you going to a sales team and saying, talk to me about your pipeline, where is it strong? What analysis have you provided to this last pitch of this meeting? And I think we tend to rely on a combination of both quantitative and qualitative analysis for certainly, forecasting.
So you think that you in businesses that just use quantitative to say forecast, you think they are doing themselves a disservice? You think it's not?
I don't necessarily think they're doing themselves a disservice, but I do think you need a large data set. I think in order to generate patterns and to be able to, analyze effectively, you need a pretty big data set. A big data set is always going to give you better results, I think, than more established results.
Because managers always want to just look at a dashboard maybe and just see the numbers, but that doesn't always give us a true capture of what's really going on. And no matter how good people are putting stuff into the CRM.
Well, that's the other issue, isn't it? I mean, people aren't necessarily great at putting things into the CRM.
Sure.
But then you have that issue with the quality analysis. You always have something like, this thing's coming through, and they go on strike. There is always that element of people either, consciously wanting to present a better picture than actually exists, or just being overly optimistic.
Eternal optimism.
Yeah, but I think that's the other important thing about relationships between sales ops and sales managers and directors. So we have, and to layering marketing as well, we have a sales meeting with marketing come to every week. We have one-to-ones with each of the sales team, that is a sales director and me. And, I think you're then able to get a much better picture of, the quantitative measures, what does capital say about your pipeline, but then sitting down and talking to them about, the next 3 months. And so we have policy management, obviously, you have your pipelines and there is a, weighted percentage against that, which I think is a slight fees. We then ask the sales team to say, in the next 3 months, you need to apply 75% likelihood of a deal coming in.
Right.
And that's proven pretty accurate. And there might be some shift in timeline. But as we look at it the whole time, you sort of see the numbers as the months draw closer to you. You see the numbers going up, and then they sort of tail off a bit as wins come through. But I think that qualitative measure works really well. I think the combination of sales manager and sales ops working together works really well.
And do you think technology is crucial to sales ops? Do you think it's part of the role? It's an intimate part of the role. That's being able to manage and decide on what those solutions might be for the sales team.
Well, I think firstly, there's too much data out there now to not have technology provide a solution. And I think, we talked about the platforms that, we use at Roxhill, and the thing that I like most about those platforms is that they do talk to each other. So, we will start a process off with the salesperson, putting as little data into the CRM as they can possibly do. But then, that builds up over time. We win the deal. Our finance team take, that data and put it into zero, which then pushes any addresses that aren't already in the CRM into Capsule. The accounts management team, the client services team, will then pick up that client. They will be using Capsule to find out, who are these clients, what are they doing, but they'll be analysing heat from that point on, who's using this, and so we look at heat to both discover, how people are using it and, whether we can detect patterns, but we also use it as a risk analysis. If someone has 10 licenses and only 5 people are using it, and those 5 people are using it, very irregularly, by the time they come to their renewal, if they ask the difficult questions like, how many licenses? And we price on sort of banded levels.
Sure.
You don't want someone realizing quite quickly that they're, wildly overpaying. It just makes conversations difficult. So we'd rather understand that at an earlier stage and get those people using it. You need more training.
Very interesting. Do we have any questions?
Josh, they're the ones with the tires.
Okay. So I've got an interesting question. Do you have a single metric you can judge all sales users by in your business?
So sales users, as in who's using my CRM and how they're using it, and
yes,
how do I judge myself?
Yes, yeah, it could be anything.
Because they're different things. They're very different things. And I think traditionally there's been the sales users sits at the centre of various different technology platforms, and do you judge them by who's putting in great data, who's putting in poor data, who's shipping their milestones along at a seed rate? We tend not to do enough of that.
Do you have a lot of time to close as a metric that you?
No, you don't. So the issue, and I think we're a slightly unusual company in that, because we know exactly who our clients are or our prospects are and who they need. We founded Volcana, so we sort of know who we need to talk to a lot of the time, and so there's an element of knowing when we need to talk to them, and if we have missed the relevant date, it's not as if that is an opportunity that's closed. Okay. We just see it as right. Well, we've given them X amount of data. We've discovered what else they need from us. What the pinch points are, and we go back. So the sales cycle is about 6 to 8 weeks, but we do understand that there is potentially, as we come, to people we've not spoken to, and this comes back to the brand thing. How do we build our brand so that when our salespeople pick up the phone, they know that who we are and what our history is and how we differ from our main competitor. But we understand that there may be quite a long time when they're tied into something. And also, our main competitor tends to aggressively enforce an auto-renew policy. And it pisses a lot of people off.
Yes.
But it makes our job so much easier the next cycle. So we don't I guess look at that metric as being something that drives success or lack of success for a salesperson. Somewhat, I guess, prosaically, one of the things that I look at is activity. I think you've just
last week we asked that question, and I don't know if our guest already said that, or we came to a conclusion that potentially it was activity. But time spent selling, we came up, which is almost similar.
Okay, so time spent selling. I mean, when I think about what the salespeople are doing and how they do it, and each salesperson does it slightly differently, but when I hear them on the phone, some of them will cycle through their calls really quickly. They will ascertain, when is your renewal date, and then boom, they're off. Can I send you some literature? Don't want to waste your time. I'll call back when, and then move through really quickly. Part of me wonders whether there is an opportunity to push a little harder. And certainly with larger companies where there might be capacity for, multiple platforms, and our main competitor and Roxhill have slightly different functionalities. So, we're not complementary, but we're not necessarily, two entirely separate things. So, I think it is good to move through those accounts quite quickly. We do know that it is, a week trial or less than a week trial, and we tend to be, pretty quick to move people on if at the end of the week they haven't been trialing it. But, again, back to the marketing, we had an automated trialists campaign. So you sign up for a trial, you get put into a campaign, you get 3 emails in the week, tell you how to do it there. Three emails a day. Yeah.
Do you have
home address.
Do you have a customer success manager or a pre-sales person looking after the trial process, or is it totally hands-on?
It's the sales team.
Okay, sales team.
Yeah. So we're we're 40 people. So 10 of whom sales. We have 4 account managers. Tech, for marketing. But we're not a big company, so it means that I do lots of different things.
Sure.
Jack and creates master of none.
So within your sales,
probably saying.
Within your sales ops role, what's your biggest challenge that you face?
Data and time.
Data and time. So is that the time to process it and to understand what's
It's just there isn't enough time in one's day to do all the things that you would want to do. And again, it goes back to attention to detail and looking at quite large data sets, and some of that stuff does take time. So time is sort of a luxury, and then data, partly because I guess we're doing quite a lot of stuff outside of platforms. There's a lot of data flying around the office. And we try to ensure that we have naming conventions across all of our platforms, but that doesn't always happen. You get web leads that people describe themselves as being from an allied company, and so harnessing the data, it has to be as clean as possible. But ensuring that it's clean is, it's a never-ending task, or as clean as possible is a never-ending task, and particularly given that, the platforms like Capsule that we're using are very simple and straightforward.
So
denigrate Capsule, it's really good.
No, I understand, but you shouldn't sometimes, you're not making do, but you're utilising all the features you need to. So you could invest in another CRM that would cost.
We could,
cost several times
Yeah.
more. Yeah, and offer way more.
We've looked at them. We've been through processes. When we brought on HubSpot, it was obviously the time to say, well, should we be changing our CRM at the same time? Should we be getting HubSpot's, marketing automation platform and its sales CRM? So we went through a process of looking at all the platforms we used. And I think partly because the sales team, I think CRM, does have to come back to sales teams rather than marketing management boards. But, partly the sales team knew it and liked it. We were bringing on HubSpot. There's a lot of change going on in the company anyway. And I think the question has raised its head again now that we've got the account management team turning to cloud services. Is this the right time to create, to buy in different platforms? So we have brought in Freshdesk as a servicing tool, but for that reason, we're continuing. We're going to stay with Capsule. That's one of the reasons we're going to stay with Capsule.
It sounds, it sounds like you have all the functionality you need, so why change it up? You'll end up with more data that could be bad. You'll have disgruntled users.
It's always a balance, isn't it? Something like Salesforce has so much more functionality, and there are so many companies that provide analytical tools that you layer onto it. So Would I enjoy it? Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
More data.
Partly it's more data, but I think some of the Salesforce departments, provide really interesting and really clever services and functionality. And, I think if you are a small company, it's really useful to have that support. And I think often the cost of these things,
it's very attractive on the way in, because there's this whole host of features that you can utilize, but you have to have people managing that constantly to get the most out of it.
But then we have, probably me managing a bunch of different Excels, and as many formulas as you can throw in there, and as much automation as you can apply to Excel. And it's pretty slick. It still takes a lot of time. Management report week is always fun.
Cool. Okay, so we're coming to the end. I heard we might have had some audio. Might have been a bit quiet. We've been hearing people. But that's fine. We can clear that up in the replay. We have one final question that we're actually going to ask every guest going forward.
Excellent.
I think I might know who you say, but I'm not going to argue say because you've already said it today. Which is who. It's kind of a two-part question. Like, who has really taught you what you know related to sales ops? Also, if it's probably the same answer. If you could say one person in sales ops out for lunch, who lives in London?
Okay.
And they even Kirsty. We really talked about Kirsty.
So who would you think I would say?
Kirsty.
Why can't I say Kirsty?
Because we've already talked about how great Kirsty is. And Kirsty is really great.
So I think the choice for me is who sort of taught me about sales ops. Possibly a little incestuously, one is Justin Kersey, who you've had.
Yeah.
But I think what I thought was really interesting about his role is he didn't come from sales ops. He came into sales ops here and didn't run the business. But he has a very, very analytical mind. He's super sharp. And we talked about, the importance of being sales or sales operations or whatever. And Justin wasn't either of those things, but worked, I think, really effectively with the sales team. I'm not sure the sales team enjoyed it much, because he would put data in front of them and say, look, it's right there. And they'd be like, I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't input it. It's marvelous. And so I think, talking about, is there a softer side of sending people to do things? I think when you put the data in front of people, particularly salespeople who will try to sell their way out of anything, it's sort of black and white in front of them, and there's very little wiggle room. So I learned a lot from Justin. But honestly, if the choice is between going out to lunch with Justin and Kirsty, I'm sorry, Justin. It's a hands down win to Kirsty.
Okay, cool. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for watching. Apologies if we had audio issues. We'll clear that up on the replay. I want to say thank you to Alex for being an amazing host and for dropping some bombs. What was that thing that we were like, how actually sales operations is almost a sales role? So sales people.
Yeah.
Selling.
I think you have to persuade people to, adopt the sales operations process, and salespeople aren't necessarily always good on process.
Exactly. That's a great. Every one of these, they got one or two absolutely great little insights and quotes. Awesome. So Henry, anything else to add?
No.
Next week.
Thanks so much, Alex.
Well, thank you very much for having me. That's great fun.
Oh, final slide. Any questions about EBSA? We talk much about EBSA, but Henry's your man. I put your Gmail there. I'm not sure.
That's absolutely fine.
Okay. I just revealed your personal email.
I'm probably going to be less able to answer questions about cluster.
Oh, that's the hangover. I'll change that up.
Rory would be delighted.
Yeah. Next week we have Kirsty on.
Excellent.
And it's going to be actually on Wednesday, because one of us is not available on Thursday. 5 p.m. next Wednesday live. We'll send people an email with links to sign up. But thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sales Ops Demystified podcast. If you are listening on a podcast listening application, then please subscribe, rate, and review. And if you have any questions about the show, if you know a guest, or if you have any questions about sales operations, just hit me up at tomhunt@ebster.com. That's tomhunt@ebster.com.